Hello, people of the world, and welcome back on the Marry in Motion podcast. Today I'm alone, I don't have a guest, and I will tell you about the first big trip of my life that really changed me. It was when I moved abroad for 1 year in Finland when I was 19. So for context, I did 2 years of intensive classes in France. It's the first 2 years of university, if I may say, and then I did 1 year of engineering school, and after that I had to choose a specialty. I didn't like any of the options, so I thought, if I'm going to do something I don't really like, I might as well do it abroad. And so I chose to do a double master degree with the university in Finland. I had the choice between first doing 1 year in France and then 6 months in Finland, and then my thesis wherever I wanted, or to do the opposite. At the beginning, I thought about doing the first option, like everyone else. But then, one of my teachers just asked me, why not? Why don't you do the opposite? And that is all that it took to convince me. So at 19 years old, I left my country to go live in Finland. My parents were not that happy. Also because it was very quick, because I really thought I would leave 1 year after, and then just like that I decided to leave directly. So I had a few months to prepare and to apply, and everything went so fast and I was not prepared for that, and my parents either. I already had moved across the country. No, I'm lying. First, I did my intensive studies 1 hour away from my parents. Then I moved where I did my engineering school, which was 8 hours away by car. And then I was like, okay, I'm moving across Europe to Finland. It was step by step, I would say. For me, it's okay, but my parents were still a bit unsure. I was moving alone in Finland, and I decided to travel lightly, so I only brought 1 suitcase. Some friends came with me for the first week, so it was a good thing to travel all together. We were a group of 4. There was Clément that you might have heard in the previous episode, where I said that I never traveled with him, but I lied. Sorry, Clément. So we were a little group of 4, and we were traveling around Finland. We visited Helsinki. We saw where I was going to study, and then we visited some islands next to Turku, which was amazing. We didn't really plan this trip, and we just booked some random Airbnbs that we found, and we just happened to take a bus, and then the bus went on a boat, and then we were on some islands, and then the bus left us, and we had maybe 1 hour walk to get into our Airbnb, which was a little wooden house in the forest next to a lake, and there was no one around, just us and the sauna and the lake, and it was so dreamy. We didn't have even the running water, so the host had to bring us some drinking water. We bought some before coming, but we were on foot, so we couldn't carry that much, and we had maybe only 4 liters for maybe 4 people for 3 or 4 days. So we were really unprepared, but that's also what makes this trip so fun. One morning, me and my friend walked to the house of our host to get some water. It was so fun because we were walking in the forest, it was cold, it was raining, and we were just happy to be there. And we were just feeling like old times, going to fetch water for our friends. It was amazing. After my friends left, I moved to a different Airbnb because I arrived mid-August 2022 and I booked an apartment from the 1st of September. So I had a few weeks before I could move in my own apartment. So I booked an Airbnb from mid-August to mid-September. So I would have a bit of backup and I could move in without any problems. I booked something very cheap because I was booking for quite some time. but I was not ready for what was awaiting. Maybe I didn't check clearly the Airbnb listing, or maybe it was not written, but I was staying on someone's couch in a common area. So it was a couple that had several rooms that they were renting on Airbnb, but they had also some kind of living room, which they didn't really use, but that was for the Airbnb guests. And then there was a couch, and they were like, okay, this is your room. And I was like, what? Like, am I sleeping on a couch in the common area where all of the guests are coming? They were like, yeah, it was written on the Airbnb listing. I was not very sure about that. I think it was very unclear, but anyway, I had no choice. Sometimes it happened that I came back in the evening and someone was sitting on my bed watching TV. Or they would enter in the morning while I was sleeping to make some breakfast or to go to the bathroom. Yeah, because to go to the bathroom, you had to go through the living room where I was sleeping. I also didn't have access to the kitchen. I just had a kettle and a fridge. And they also had a dog that was barking and running around the house, and it was a big dog and it was putting hair everywhere and being very noisy. I tried to talk with the hosts, but they didn't care at all. They said that it was what was written on the Airbnb and they wouldn't do anything. My parents were already uncertain about me moving to Finland, but then because of this situation, they were really stressed for me. I think I was also stressed and uncomfortable, but I refused to admit that because I was abroad and I was living what I wanted to live, technically. So I didn't want to admit that this was not the perfect situation, and also I had no other choice. So what could I do? I knew it was for a short period of time. I mean, short-ish. So I knew it was not forever. So it was okay for me. Just the first day, I was not so happy because I just had an amazing time with my friends, and then they left and I was left alone in this common area, and this was not so fun. But then it went better. I got used to it too. I also spent most of my time out discovering the area, and also the events started at the university. So I had a lot of student events and already some classes in the end of August. Finally, on the 1st of September, I got the keys to my apartment. Unfortunately, it was unfurnished, so I still had to wait before moving in. It was unfurnished because usually for foreign students, they would give them furnished apartments, but I was not considered as an exchange student because I was doing my full master there. I was doing a double degree, but still I was considered as a proper student there. First, I thought I would just buy a bed and a table and I would be okay with it. But then I thought that I would stay in this apartment for 1 year, so I might at least get comfortable and really buy furniture. It was a struggle to find cheap furniture, but I found a big second-hand shop that could also deliver to my place. But it took some time. They delivered it to me on the 7th of September, so it had been already 3 weeks after my arrival in Finland. It was also the end on my Airbnb booking, so I was very happy. Everything was falling into place. However, I didn't find a bed at first, so I was sleeping on my couch, but it was 10 times better than where I was before. I was so relieved when I finally moved to my own place. It was also super fun to find furniture, decoration. I loved also to thrift some plates, everything. I loved it. My first semester was euphoric. I met a group of exchange students with whom I went to Lapland. We took a 12-hour bus to Rovaniemi, which is a city in the middle of Finland, already above the Arctic Circle. And then we rented cars and we drove for maybe more than 8 hours to go to Norway. We rented a big house because I think we were a group. Maybe we were 12 people. I don't really remember, but we rented this big house in the middle of nowhere and we hiked. It was autumn, so the colors were amazing. I saw landscapes I've never seen before, and we even saw northern lights. The last day, we lost hope, But then, on the last evening, we were outside grilling marshmallows. And then I look up and wow, Northern Lights. And they stayed the whole night. It was amazing, really. Some of us didn't even sleep to see them, but I did. But we woke up at 3 a.m. the next morning to go home, to drive home. And during the whole drive, I could see them. It was so amazing. The group with whom I've been to Finland, I liked them, but I felt like it was not such deep connections. And I was feeling a bit lonely at some point. So I decided to go home and surprise my family. So I came back unannounced in the end of October. I'm realizing now that I must have really felt bad because I came back so early. Like, I arrived in Finland in end of August, and in October I was already back home, which never happened to me before. I think it was a bit complicated period because it was starting to get dark and it was starting to get cold, and I had this group of friends that I was not so close with, and I had a lot of time because the classes were not so time consuming. I think I had maybe 2 hours of classes every day on average. So I had a lot of time to myself, which I never really had before, and I didn't know what to do with it. So it was not so easy for me. And also in November, it was the first time that I missed my siblings' birthday. I think it was hard for me to realize that I would not always be there for them, and I would miss big events in my family, and that would happen regularly. But this was the first thing I ever missed, and I was still very young, so it was not easy. However, afterwards, I had a lot of people coming to visit me. One of my best friends, Sarah, came in the beginning of December. Then my dad and my siblings stayed for 2 weeks for Christmas. I also had my boyfriend at the time that came at the same time, and he stayed for 3 weeks. Then in January, some friends came, then my sister again, a lot of friends came, and I had always stuff to do afterwards. I think November was the hardest, and then it became so much easier. Also, at the end of the first semester, the group of friends I had, they all left because they were there for only 1 semester of exchange. So afterwards, I had to find new friends. And I did. I met incredible people in my masters that were doing similar programs than me, but also, in particular, in a class that I was taking. I took it from the first semester, but we were less close at the time, but then we got closer and closer. I was doing a product development class. We were a group of 11 people, and I don't know what happened, but we were so close together. We became so friends. Really, I was spending a lot of time with them to work, but also to hang out. I would thank our project leader. At the beginning, she really made an effort to link us all together so that we would become friends and so that we would work better together, but also hang out and really have a good time. I don't know how she did it. Or maybe it's because the team was already, I don't know, nobody knew each other. And I don't know what happened, but the first hangout that we did, we went to Sylvia's place. We were eating snacks, and she had prepared some questions that we would just read out loud, and then we would talk, and we would talk about deep and personal topics, and we were all feeling quite comfortable, I think, already, and safe to talk and to show who we really were, and it really matched so well. I'm so grateful that I was in that class. Sylvia really made us from colleagues to real friends. And I have a message. If Hamad is listening, I'm still waiting for your wedding invitation. Please don't forget me. I also think that the Finnish education system is so much better than the one I've known in France. In Finland, I had little classes, and most of them were projects where we would discuss, and I was also in this product development project where I was in a multidisciplinary team For example, Sylvia that I talked about earlier was a design student while I was in engineering, and I feel like during all of my studies I was always only with engineers. We also had a graphic designer. We had a lot of different fields that were very interesting to work with and to have different perspectives, which I think we really lack in France. Also, the notion of hierarchy is very different. In Finland, you would call your professors by their first name. The classes are small. You can really chat with them. If they do a mistake, they are okay with it. They're like, oh, sorry. And they take into account what the students think, which in France, they don't really do. In France, the professor has all of the power and the knowledge, and they don't really accept when students think they do too. And they don't really accept when the student challenges this authority or this knowledge, which I think is very sad, because that's how you can become better in what you do, or you can involve the students, because if the students don't really feel like they have something to say, then they wouldn't really want to participate in the class. If they don't feel listened, they will not really talk. This experience in Finland really changed me, because it was the first time in my life where I was interacting with people from outside of Europe, which is crazy to say, because I was all my life interacting with people from the same background as me, from the same studies, from everything. And now I've discovered so many other things, and it made me want to travel so much more outside of Europe too. It opened my mind to new perspectives, to new way of thinking. In my PDP group, so the project I was talking about before, there were people from Pakistan which talked about their perspective on the family, on the wedding perspective, and they had so different vision on life, and we had so deep talks, and I learned so much. We had also one guy from Vietnam, 3 from Korea. It was so interesting to have all of those talks all together. And also thanks to our project leader, we were having really deep conversations, because she would prepare questions and because we would all feel comfortable enough to do that. I had also some very close friends from Mexico or from Iran. I don't know how to explain, but I've met so many people that really showed me that Europe was not the only thing that I could consider. And from that moment, I really believed that I was capable of going farther, which I did. So thank you all for that. But there are also some drawbacks from the Finnish culture. No, I wouldn't say drawbacks. I would say that I had some culture shocks at the beginning, but things that now I really like. For example, Finnish people don't really talk when they have nothing to say, which I think is brilliant. And we should do that more. If you are with a Finnish person and you just have used all of the conversation you had and you don't have anything to say, it's not awkward to just say nothing. And I like that, because sometimes I would feel forced to just keep the conversation going, otherwise it would be awkward. But now I don't have that pressure anymore, and I think it's just okay to just stay silent. And I like that. I also thought that they were very inclusive with the, I don't know how to say this, but the dietary restrictions? I don't know, like the food restrictions. In the cafeteria, there was always vegetarian and vegan options, and that were good. And some restaurants were only vegan. In the university, we had a lot of student restaurants, and some were vegan, and it was normal. And so many people were vegan because it was possible, because it was easy. In the supermarket, you would always find some vegan things, some vegan alternatives, some vegan options, always. And I loved that. I had some vegan friends, and I think it's way easier to be vegan in Finland than in France. Because when I came back, I don't know, when I was in Finland, I was buying some products that were vegan. I'm not vegan, but some products I would buy. And then I went back to France and I couldn't find anything similar. In France, we really don't have that kind of inclusivity. Finnish people also speak very good English. That's why, sorry, but I didn't learn Finnish at all because I never had the need to. Everyone I have ever met was speaking such a good English. And I think this is due to the fact that their movies are not dubbed in Finnish. So from a very young age, they watch TV and movies already in English. And maybe, as I said before, their education system is just better. I also felt so safe over there. There is this culture of not stealing anything. For example, you can leave your bike, or when you are at the library, you can just leave your laptop and all of your things and go have lunch. And when you come back, everything is still there. I really felt safe also going home at night, walking. If a car was passing by, I was not scared. I mean, I know anything can happen everywhere, but I really felt safer there. I think that's all that I have for now. I don't know if something else comes to my mind. I might do a second episode. Maybe I will go back to Finland soon. I mean soon, I'm saying in the following years. And I will be able to see again all of my friends there. I would love to do some episodes with them. This is all in my mind. This is all planned. So I hope to see you in the next episode and take care.